Hi, my name's Maureen Caballero, and I'm part of Nashville Software School's DA3 part-time cohort. I looked at Nashville Metro's short-term rental market for my capstone project, and the reason why is that I'm a prior owner of rental properties before the Airbnb days, and I had a curiosity as to what the market currently looks like and what the relative changes have been since the 2017 proposals to limit short-term rentals in the Nashville market, as well as 2020 COVID-19 effects. My sources were data.nashville.gov for permits and complaints information and Airbnb data sites for maps and listing information. And the tools I used were Python and Tableau. As you can see, most listings are clustered around the downtown areas. As the darkest blue shows the number of listings being at 1,400 and then radiating out to some of the outside districts being only 38, 34, 25. Median price by district shows also a similar pattern where closer to downtown is more expensive, although not immediately downtown. Those are not the highest price. And then it radiates out. It ranges from $55 at the low end up to $210.50 per night. Some of the trends that we see in permits was a slight drop off in 2015, followed by a steady rise all the way up through the end of 2019, where we see a drop and then a real significant drop in March and April of 2020, followed by just a general slowing issue of permits. The peaks that you see coincidentally are just each year during December and January. For some reason, that's when people want to get their permits. If we look at trends by type, we see a noticeable decrease in non-owner occupied permits in 2017, following that ruling to limit short-term rentals to specific zones. A fairly steady pace of owner occupied, and then in terms of multifamily, it's been a steady rise since 2016-2017, and multifamily includes hotels, condo buildings, and apartment buildings. If we look at complaints, it has been rising ever since they started measuring it in early 2017. Steady rise until a drop off again at the end of 2019 for some reason, followed by a rise again, even during the pandemic. When permit applications have dropped way off, the complaints are still way up. You can see median price by room type. The most expensive is hotel room, followed by entire home or apartment. But the counts, primarily what we have in this Nashville market, are entire homes or apartments for rent, followed by private room. The number of reviews per listing for listings mirrors the density of listings starting in the downtown area and radiating out. And then if we look at a graphical representation of the listings by owner type, they do look fairly similar. And what that tells us is that it is location that determines the density of listings, not so much the type of owner. Hosts list an average of 10 listings in the Nashville market, where the highest number is the host who has 136, and many who have only one listing. Approximately 10% of hosts only have one listing. For a minimum number of nights, it's typically 1 or 2 required, but there's a surprising number that do require 30-day stays and are still considered short-term rentals. Here's where you see one of the biggest differences in the short-term rental market compared to longer-term rental and traditional hospitality locations. Whereas those typically are available 365 nights a year, you can see that the short-term rentals in Nashville are all over the place in terms of how many nights per year they offer availability, with actually very few of them being available 365 nights. I have some conclusions after looking at the data that although expansion has slowed down due to 2020 pandemic, permits continue to be issued on a fairly regular basis. The 2017 limiting proposals and the more recent rulings have resulted in fewer non-owner occupied listings, but more multifamily listings. And although permits issued has declined during the pandemic, complaints have not declined at anywhere near the same pace. These are my sources, and I thank you for spending the time listening to my presentation.